Hello, hello, hello. How we doing, guys? Can you guys hear me all right? Sound look like it's good on my end. Just want to double check. Thumbs up will suffice. Hope everybody's doing good on this beautiful Tuesday. Looks like Jeff Mullins is staying out of the BLM madness in Japan. That is good to hear, my brother. And I want to thank Hunter already for throwing in a super chat of $9.99. Thank you very much, brother. I appreciate that. I appreciate that tremendously. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So today I want to talk to you guys about leadership. And so I don't expect this stream to be too incredibly long. I want to talk about what the Bible says about leadership. And we're going to be using Titus, the book of Titus, as our sort of launching point for this video to talk about, well, what does the Bible say in regards to a bishop, in regards to a religious leader. And I have a little excerpt that I actually want to read to you guys. There's a website called Bible Study Tools, and they actually have a great page talking about leadership and how the Bible talks about leadership, and then referring between the difference of King Saul and King David. I want to get into that. And of course, throughout this video, we're going to be referring to Trump, Donald J. Trump. And so a lot of stuff to get into, although again, like I said, I don't know how long we're going to be going today. But before we get going, I do want to highlight the merch, right? So guys, here is the Orthodox Rebel t-shirt. It is finally in. And if you'd like to see on the back, we got the Church of the Eternal logos across the shoulders there. So this is the new design, the new t-shirt. It's actually great. It's a premium cotton. It fits great. I actually love it. If you guys are actually interested in getting one, I have a link. Like I said, my website is not on my website. My website uses Printful, and unfortunately, Printful is way behind due to COVID in regards to fabrics. So you can't get any t-shirt products. But on Teespring, I have a Teespring set up. Of course, I don't have over 10,000 subs. So I'm not able to put the Teespring t-shirts underneath the bottom of my YouTube channel, but I can give you guys the link here. Let me do that real quick. If anybody's interested in looking at some t-shirts that I have, and I'm going to be adding more, but this is my Teespring store. You can get the Orthodox Rebel t-shirt. It also comes in a hoodie, comes in a long sleeve, and it comes in a tank top. But the t-shirt is a premium cotton, and I love it. It actually fits great. So do recommend that if you guys are interested. So just wanted to throw that out there. And then, of course, for anybody, if you're able, if you're in a nice financial position, if you like what I'm doing on this YouTube channel, Church of the Eternal Logos, happen to go to my website, davidpatrickcarey.com, churchoftheeternallogos.com. And if able, only if you're able to set up a monthly recurring payment to support anything over $5, you'll automatically get a membership when that comes available. But I would greatly appreciate that. So just wanted to throw that out there. That is always the sort of beginning point where we're going to launch from. So with that being said, now let's kind of get into our video today, talking about a crisis in leadership. I'm not saying anything you guys aren't already witnessing in society right now. And of course, for my thumbnail, I chose Donald J. Trump, President Donald Trump. I'm holding up the LGBTQ pride flag, and this is going to kind of frame the discussion today. And what we're going to be doing is highlighting how, at least from a biblical perspective, the way in which you're a leader is providing an example, a lived example of following God's will. So therefore, the ultimate leader, of course, is Jesus Christ, the incarnation of the Logos. the King of Kings. And when we look then at leaders in the world, I wanted to frame today is that, of course, I'm going to be critical of Donald Trump today. I've got some emails, people talking about, oh my God, don't you understand what's going to happen if Joe Biden gets in office? Guys, come on. I'm well aware. I'm well aware. But the framework of today's video, again, is this dialectic between the better of two evils is the sort of slow deterioration of America itself, right? How Republicans, conservatives are 10, 15 years behind. And certainly this is even the case with Donald Trump, that he, being in the support of sort of the LGBTQ stuff, being a late comer on the abortion stuff, that he's not exactly fully embodying sort of the values that we would idealize in a leader. But he also has some good leadership qualities. And so today is going to be looking at sort of the good, the bad, and the ugly in regards to Donald Trump. And we're not going to be, just chastising him or blaming him for everything. Of course, there are some good things that he has contributed to. So we're going to get into some good things, some bad things. I want to talk about some general leadership qualities and then go through each of those qualities and kind of discuss, well, does Trump, does he hold up on any of these? And then I have this section actually within that I want to read to you guys from the Bible Study Tools website that I really enjoyed. And so to begin, let's get to Scripture. And so today's Scripture, what we're launching from, is in the book of Titus, chapter 1, verse 7 through 14, and how Paul actually describes what a bishop is. So a bishop is obviously a leader, a spiritual leader, a leader in the church. And so those qualities of a leader in the church, I think, are ones in which we can then look into the sort of regular world. I don't want to say secular world, because I don't want to create those distinctions, right? That sort of conceptual distinction between religiosity and then politics or this or that. But our beginning points, I'm going to read here, and this is, again, Titus chapter 1, verse 7, and it reads, "For a bishop must be blameless as a steward of God, not self-willed, not quick-tempered, not given to wine, not violent, not greedy for money, sober-minded, just, holy, self-controlled, holding fast the faithful word as he has been taught, that he may be able by sound doctrine both to exhort and convict those who contradict. For there are many insubordinate, both idle talkers and deceivers, especially those of the circumcision." I think you guys know who that is. "Whose mouths must be stopped, who subvert whole households, teaching things that they ought not, for the sake of dishonest gain. One of them, a prophet of their own, said, Cretans are always liars, evil beasts, lazy gluttons. These testimony is true. Therefore rebuke them sharply, that they may be sound in the faith, not giving heed to Jewish fables and commandments of men who turn from the truth. To the pure all things are pure, but to those who are defiled and unbelieving nothing is pure, but even their mind and their conscience are defiled. They profess to know God, but in works they deny him, being abominable, dishonest, disobedient, disqualified for every good work." And so that is where we're going to begin in regards to a leader. From a biblical perspective, at least, has to be one following God's will. Now, I was using a bit of Jocko Willink as a sort of reference, because he's kind of, when you think of leadership in sort of regular day society, who's talking about leadership, who's providing a sort of good example, I immediately started to think of Jocko Willink, at least talking about it. Now, you can get into the military-industrial complex, all that stuff. Agreed. So we're going to be on the same page there. But as an individual, I think Jocko Willink has a lot of good advice for young men in regards to claiming a sort of leadership role, a self-confidence, a competency within individuals. So I have quite a bit of respect for Jocko Willink. But I want to read some stuff to you guys And one of the things is about, okay, so I have this first paragraph on what does a leader do? And leading entails influencing people to think, say, and behave in ways that take them from one place to another. From one place to another. So a leader takes us from one place to another. Of course, the ultimate leader is always going to be Jesus Christ. Leading can be formal, meaning you can hold a position of authority in a group, or informal, meaning you influence people, but not of a position of authority. And it is all too easy for a leader to get wrapped up in the what, when, and how of leadership and miss what is even more important than the tangible results of completed tasks and goals met. The Bible tells the story of how God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit loves us and wants us to love Him despite our brokenness and tendency to go our own way. See Isaiah 53:6. This relationship is the main thing about the Bible, and it's the main thing to keep focused on when leading people. But what exactly does that mean? And so I want to get into what is biblical leadership and what makes a good leader from a biblical perspective, and those types of things. But I have a handful of general qualities that I want to go over. And again, I think most of us know that Trump has been incredibly weak given the chaos and the sort of controversies and things that have been going on in America with these really a Bolshevik revolution, this sort of communistic revolution, neo-Marxist revolution that's happening, and the rewriting of society, the taking down of statues and monuments. I'm speaking to the choir. You guys are already aware of all this stuff. So looking at general characteristics of a leader, what are they? And the number one, according to Jocko Willink and other people that I was looking at in preparing for this video, the number one quality that most of them agreed with in regards to a leader is humility. Humility. And so right there, I think that absolutely applies to a biblical worldview and a biblical perspective of what a leader is, and the importance of humility is not just to be humble, but examples were given in regards to listening to the opinions of maybe people that are in an inferior position to yourself, always looking to improve, being willing to be accountable when one makes a mistake. And so humility for Jocko, humility for, again, the various resources that I looked into, is the number one quality for a leader. And so when we begin to try to apply that to Donald Trump, I think we see an obvious contradiction right from the get-go. And again, this video is not to just totally bash Donald Trump, because obviously there's good things that he's done. There's good things that he's doing. Maybe he's a little late to the party in some of the stuff in regards to BLM or his new Statues Act that's going to charge people up to 10 years in prison for vandalism in regards to these federal monuments. So, but even when we look at leadership, given during this COVID crisis, even the church is struggling with leaders. Look again at the Archbishop of Goarch and him protesting with BLM. Look at how many of these churches have shut down. This is one that, my church shut down due to the bishops and the archbishop's orders, Antiochian Church here in the Midwest in Indiana. And you look at some of the ROCOR churches who did not shut down. They did not obey. And, I find that actually to be much more of an embodiment of real leadership of a flock, of a spiritual flock, and not taking orders from the secular, satanic, fallen world and what we're seeing. And so leadership is really a crisis, not just in right now, the position we're in right now in America. Leadership is a problem within our churches. Leadership is a problem within people's nuclear families. Leadership is a problem within America for basically the last 70 years. I mean, this decline, this drastic decline we found ourselves in, this did not just happen overnight. This has been obviously planned for a while now, but it is due to an absence of real leadership for a very long time. And, you know, I'm not going to point to who was the last one to be a true leader in American politics. I have no idea, but I have some ideas, but maybe we'd all have difference of opinion, so no need to go there. But clearly, the globalist agenda, clearly the advancement of degenerate ideas, degenerate practices, cultural degradation. It's been happening for a while. And so Donald Trump doesn't need to deserve all of the blame, even though, again, I used the thumbnail of him holding up the LGBTQ pride flag. That is just symbolic. The reason I did that is to highlight the difference between we're coming at this from a biblical perspective. And the fact that he does promote those things shows a divergence from God's will. And God's will is the ultimate way in which we lead, right? And again, that's why Christ is the ultimate leader, and that is who leads us. That's why he is the ultimate shepherd, and we are his flock. But humility is, interestingly, the number one. And when I think of Donald Trump, I think of a megalomaniac. And I think this is true for a lot of you guys who see the stuff that he tweets about. When you look at the way that he talks about himself, again, on Twitter, it's just amazing, even from people who are major supporters of him. And again, I have been promoting Trump, again, at least at a cultural level, at least what he represents to the people who hate him, even though, again, I have big problems with his relationship to Israel, and we're going to get into that. I have big problems with his son-in-law, Jared Kushner. I have big problems on the sort of slow stepping that we've been seeing with the wall, with DACA, with all these visas for foreign workers. Not a big fan whatsoever. So we're going to get into that as well. But clearly, if humility from a non-religious perspective, again, is the number one quality of leadership, and also, I think maybe not number one, and from a biblical perspective, would be following God's will, which is a sort of humility, right? It's a humility in recognizing that you are not God, that your will is not of ultimate importance. And so there is sort of a humbling there. That when we look at Donald Trump, we look at a megalomaniac. Now, how has that worked in his favor? I would say with, you want to get into Russiagate, you want to get into the deep state spying on his campaign, trying to oust him out of office. And without that massive ego he's had, I don't know how any normal person could actually withstand some of the stuff that he's been up against. So again, from a biblical perspective, all leadership is sort of providential, or at least world leaders are sort of providential to God's will. God allows these people to become in the places of authority in which they occupy. So whether it be an Obama, whether it be a JFK, whether it be a Putin, whether it be a Mao Zedong, at one level or another, these are okayed by the will of God, and God allows these things to happen, whether it be a King David, of course. So we have to keep that in mind, that, again, God is in ultimate control of history itself. And so maybe I'm just speculating here, but is it providential that God appointed a sort of Donald Trump to not really embody all the things that we need in a leader, but to be a sort of lightning rod, one that wakes up so many young people? I mean, I can imagine much of the people watching this video right now, I know myself included, were probably to the left of center before Donald Trump's president, before he ran for president. And so it is interesting how this sort of phenomenon has really helped awaken a lot of people in regards to politics, in regards to nationalism, in regards to more traditional values. So I think there is certainly a providential element to Trump and his presidency, and him having that massive, massive ego, being so wrapped up in what other people say of him. Like we can have protests going on, and he's upset what somebody said about his hair or something of this nature. So at one level, though, without that big ego, how could he withstand the things that he's been up against in regards to the deep state? So I think that, interestingly, again, the number one character was humility. So I think Trump probably doesn't score too well there. And then the second one is a leader leads by example. So how has Trump led by example? And I was kind of sitting and thinking about this for a minute, and what I thought is, well, he clearly works hard. He is kind of famous that he doesn't sleep very much, even at his older age. He always has lots of energy. But I think really the way in which you could say that he would score well in regards to leading by example is the sort of arrows that he takes, right? Again, what he's up against and how that he is sort of a leading edge, right? When you even think of a leader, a sort of person leading something, the leading edge of something, that he does sort of take the bows, the arrows, the criticisms of the people that support him. Again, we're going to get into how he's been actually very weak in regards to supporters getting beat up. In regards to online big tech censorship, he hasn't done much there at all, right? He's continuing to monitor the situation. But as leading by example, I think he represents somebody who's sort of bucking the system, who's sort of in opposition to the politically correct norms that we are embedded in right now. And from that vantage point, I think that there's really something good there. So as I have in like one of the good qualities of Donald Trump is that he's politically incorrect. And I think that politically incorrectness is a good thing. And that is a sort of leading by example. And it does give people a sense of freedom to speak their mind. Of course, that ultimately doesn't work because then you get kicked off the internet for doing so, or social media or whatever. But in regards to leading by example, I would say he would score much, much better than regards to humility and the willingness to humble oneself as a quality of leadership. And so another one would be to communicate a vision. A leader is supposed to communicate a vision for the people who he leads. How else, as I mentioned, a leader takes people from point A to point B. How else can we move from point A to point B without communicating a vision of where that point B is and where we're going to move together? And so in regards to communicating a vision, I think, again, he probably scores a little bit better. Again, his strong rhetoric, and we're going to get into his weak actions, but strong rhetoric. This is sort of the motif of the Trump presidency. But communicating a vision, again, making America great again, this whole sort of going back in our sort of value system, our sort of value structure, I think this helps frame a vision. And the vision was taking pride back in being American. Now, again, as Orthodox people, we can criticize secularism, we can criticize all these different things within the American enterprise, the American empire, if you will, but there's also within Orthodoxy that you're supposed to support your nation. You're supposed to have, again, Orthodoxy is supposed to come in and sanctify one's nation, one's country, one's culture. And that means that we need to do things in which to have pride of our country. So I think that's something that at least needs to be noted. So communicating a vision, I think his sort of rhetorical tools, right? Everything's the biggest, everything's the greatest, everything's the best. I think it helps with the communication of a vision. Now, the implementation of that vision, not so well. And so the next point of a leader, the next main attribute of a leader is to take actions necessary to accomplish that vision. And I say this is probably where a lot of criticisms can be directed in regards to the slow stepping of the wall, in regards to DACA, in regards to foreign immigration, in regards to all these foreign visas for work. Not really America first, is it? So some of the great rhetoric, again, and the rhetoric from the early Trump, I'm talking about the 2016 candidacy, running for presidency, that was strong. It was unique. It was something we hadn't heard for a while. But in regards to implementing those things, I don't think he's been that strong. Now, people can say, hey, look at what he's up against. This is usually the common rebuttal when you start to critique Trump, is that, hey, look what he's up against. He's up against the deep state. Look at the Democrats. Look at all these different forces and opinions that he is in opposition to that are trying to subvert his agenda. Agreed. But look at who he's hired. Look at the people who he's appointed. Look at how many people who have, in one way or another, sort of betrayed him. So, for example, he hired Omarosa. What is going on there? He's talking about the military-industrial complex pulling soldiers from all these foreign wars, which he's yet to do, and then he hires John Bolton, General Mattis. What's going on here? And so we're going to get to this also being an important dimension of being a leader, is appointing competent people to follow through with one's agenda. And I think that is probably where he has been extremely, extremely weak. He talks about draining the swamp, yet he hires the swamp. How does that work out? That makes no sense. And so in regards to this fourth attribute of being a leader, the ability to take action that is necessary to accomplish that vision, I would say he's done a mediocre job, an all right job. It hasn't been great. I think, again, especially in regards to a lot of this immigration stuff, it could have been a lot better. In regards to the foreign trade, it's been pretty decent. In regards to the economy, it's been very good, up to, of course, pandemic that occurred. So that's just kind of where I see that. Now, in regards to make wise decisions, has Trump been good at making wise decisions? This is the fifth attribute of being a good leader. I don't know how well he's been at making wise decisions. I don't see that personally. I don't see him making wise decisions. I see him always riding the moment. And that has been good, but as we see him in the present situation with the rise of BLM, with all these lootings and protests and riots, that he's too worried about the way people perceive him, right? So at a time when really people really want him to be a leader, and even people who are on the left side of the political spectrum, he is so wrapped up in the way people will perceive him, right? He wants to get that black vote. He wants to do all these things, which, again, we're going to get into the nonsense of appealing to 13% of the population. It makes no sense but anyways, I see him sort of always being trapped within the moment. It doesn't seem, the whole 4D chess scenario, the QAnon stuff is nonsense. I follow some of the big QAnon accounts on Twitter, and it's amazing to see the mental gymnastics that they jump through every single day to sort of justify that sort of QAnon theory. It's kind of scary, actually. And so in regards to then making wise decisions, I don't see a lot of wisdom. I see a lot of sort of off the cuff, in the moment, appealing to people's emotions, appealing to what's hot at that time. But I don't see a whole lot of wisdom. So I don't know how well he's going to score in regards to making wise decisions. Now, the next one is to develop and execute a strategy. Develop and execute a strategy. In regards to the fact that he even won the election, I think he probably is somewhat strong in this area. Again, I am very critical of maybe his strategy in this re-election. The way that he appeals to black unemployment over and over and over again, as if he's going to get a large section of that voting block, makes very little sense to me. It seems like he's actually alienated much of the people who voted for him. Having been around, again, I live in Indiana. I live in a fairly conservative state and am around fairly conservative people. And when we talk about politics, it seems like the tone and tenor in regards to Trump support has gone from look how great he's doing, look at what he's up against, look at what he's fighting, to at least he's better than Joe Biden. We can't let the Democrats in. Again, falling back into this the better of two evils. And this is really the dialectic that has allowed Americanism to, or, again, Americanism is something that I want to support. The McDonald's of the world, corporatism, globalism, all that stuff needs to be thrown away. I'm interested in a real Christian nationalism that is then under an umbrella called America. That is what I would hope for. But of course, we don't really have that. And so I wanted to, again, using the Bible as a source point for how we understand leader, is I think we really need to make a movement, a transition in regards to people who have traditional values, to saying, oh, well, we just need to vote for the lesser of two evils, to really holding people accountable to whether they hold up a traditional Christian worldview. If they're supporting LGBTQ, we need to say that out loud. We can't just say, oh, well, that's okay. At least he's not Joe Biden. No, we need to say that's degenerate. That's not Christian. How are you calling yourself a Christian and then you support that crap? Well, that makes no sense. We need to start holding people sort of accountable from a Christian worldview. That's the only way we can, and this was something that I was thinking about recently, is we don't have any, young people, for example, that are watching this, or, who may watch it or in the future. Think about going into politics. We need real Christian men going into politics that are going to fight for what's true. Now, I know politics is degenerate, but some of you guys may have a skill for it. You may have a knack for rhetoric. You may have a knack for appealing to people's, interests to get votes. But and well, who knows if even the system's going to continue at this point? It could very well. We don't know if we have 4 months or 4 years. And basically that's what we're voting for. And I got some emails from people, and they're talking about how I need to start telling people that we really have to vote for Trump, and the inability to see how the game's already over. The fact that so many people in this country want to tear down monuments, the fact that so many institutions are in support of all this stuff, the game's over. America only has 4 months or 4 years in regards to the America as we know it. Now it can be rebranded, it can be reorganized, it can be restructured, but the thing in which we know as America, it only has 4 months or 4 years. And the re-election of Donald Trump, if it happens, because he's falling in the polls quite dramatically, again, from a lack of leadership. People who voted for him are upset because he's not acting like a leader. He is being acted upon. He's not acting on the world. He's not leading the world. He's not taking us from point A to point B. And we need men, Christian men, that are willing to actually fight for a society. Now, if this all crumbles in the next 4 months, or it crumbles in 4 years, well, we need men that have been already thinking about being leaders of themselves. And that's what any sort of politician should be, as a sort of leader, right? And again, the only way to be a leader from our perspective is to follow God's will. And so if maybe this is something that you guys should think about, I don't know who I'm speaking to, but I'm sure somebody out there might resonate, that to think about in 4 years that you could be a politician. You could start running for office. Look what AOC did. She was 29 years old. So we need to start thinking about actually taking over, for ourselves. And I know Black Pill, Derek Stack was talking about, do Christian men own anything in this country anymore? And that's a real question. That's a real question. Like, what the ideals and values that built this country. Again, and we can get into Protestant presupposition, secularism, post-Enlightenment thought. Agreed. I get you. I'm there. But those values, at least of a sort of traditional morality that founded and shaped this country, does anybody anywhere that runs anything still hold those values? I mean, other than the My Pillow guy, I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. I mean, it seems like the My Pillow guy is the last one. So, somebody said that shirt reminds you of Southern Sweet Tea. Hey, get you one. I threw the link there. If you guys are interested in getting yourself an Orthodox Rebel t-shirt, I just threw the link in there. But anyways, yeah. So regarding to develop and execute a strategy, I mean, it seemed like the fact that he won the election, he did something good, but at least with what's going on right now, I would give him a very weak rating on executing any sort of political strategy in 2020. It seems like he has been led by the nose, even during this COVID stuff with Dr. Fauci, right? I mean, that guy should be in prison. He's a criminal. He's an outright liar. And yet Trump has him at every press conference talking to us about this or that. I mean, he was the fraud behind the AIDS epidemic. And he's supposed to tell us what to do and what to think in regards to all this stuff. And then we have this second wave. And guys, I know, again, I'm speaking to the choir, but I have to say this again regarding all this mask stuff. But the testing, and I know some of you guys are already going to know exactly what I'm talking about. But the PCR test, the way that they test for COVID, is an antibody test. It's an antibody test. The fact that you test positive, which is way they're calling the second wave, like, oh my gosh, we have 100,000 cases. Guys, this is just testing positive, the fact that you have the antibodies. If you had COVID and recovered, you test positive for the antibodies. If you were exposed to COVID and never got it, or, maybe you had just felt slightly off for a day and then you're fine right after that because your immune system kicked in and it's already dealt with it, you test positive. You should not be worried about this stuff, about these numbers, and the fact that I'm seeing people just get in a tizzy regarding the second wave narrative. This is ridiculous. This is a lack of education. This is a problem with people not knowing what's going on and not informing themselves and being manipulated by emotion. Do not be fearful. Do not be fearful. We cannot have that happen. So, sorry, I just wanted to throw that out there because it's just been bothering me the way that I'm seeing people wear these masks. I mean, I refuse to absolutely wear a mask, and I'm going to refuse to absolutely get a vaccine. And I don't know if you guys just recently saw, but the University of Tennessee is going to mandate any student who comes back in the fall, or actually the article I read didn't specify the semester, but when the vaccine is available, mandate every student has to get the COVID shot. Now think about the death rate here. The death rate of COVID is so low, it's ridiculous we're even forming a vaccine, which then totally shows the hands of why they're doing it. It's for something else. It's for obviously something else that's in the vaccine. So, if you can help our brothers and sisters. I have trouble having patience with some of this stuff because it just irritates me so much to see how people are being manipulated, and then to see people wearing this stuff. I mean, the mask to me is a litmus test of submission and IQ. I see smart people wearing it, so it's clearly not an IQ problem necessarily, but they're submitting to a sort of secular power, right? They have a lack of faith. They have a lack of real autonomy, right? But then I see people who, maybe aren't the most intelligent, but they refuse to wear one because they won't submit. And so it seems like these two things, either it's the IQ or it's the submission, but that's what it is. It's a submission ritual and it's an IQ test. And so refuse it. I saw that in LA County, they just closed the beaches for the 4th of July weekend. Brothers and sisters in California, please violate that order. Please, for the sake of freedom and all that is good, stand up and take what is yours. You're in control. These satanic pedophiles are not in control unless you acquiesce. So, sorry, a bit of a tangent there. Anyways, next important quality of a leader is to appoint competent leaders and advisors. And this is where I would say Trump has just been abysmal, absolutely abysmal. That he's appointed people, again, like the General Mattis, like the John Boltons, like the Omarosas. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And then to see, unfortunately, these Supreme Court justices that he's so proud about, with the help of McConnell in the Senate. My God, the Supreme Court's been terrible. Of course, he didn't appoint John Roberts, Justice John Roberts, the guy who basically votes on everything progressive and claims to be a conservative Republican. But even Gorsuch and Kavanaugh have come out with some rulings that really make me scratch my head. It's like, these guys are supposed to be traditional Christians? What is going on? My gosh. So, but, so in regards to appointing competent leaders and advisors, I say Trump has been really, really, really poor about this. And again, I understand that Trump is the better of two evils. I understand, and I have things that I think Trump has done well. Like I said, politically correct, getting into NATO, getting foreign countries to pay debts back to our country, the China deal. These are good things. Domestic manufacturing. These are good things that need to happen. So, we need to call balls and strikes here, and we can't just be too polemical on one end or the other. But look at it objectively, at least as objective as we can, right, from our subjective vantage point. But, in regards to his appointing of competent leaders and advisors, I think he's been terrible. I mean, look at who's the woman that used to be in the UN, Haley something. I mean, that woman is a joke. She is a shill for Israel. I'm blanking on her name right now. But I cannot stand that woman. And the fact that, again, he went on about how great she is, this or that. Trump's ability to appoint competent leaders and advisors has been terrible. And then the fact that he listens to his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, again, terrible, terrible, terrible. And then I'm not a big fan of the prison reform bill that they passed. So to me, this was like a sort of legislative move to already do look at all these Democratic counties. And Nikki Haley, thank you, John and On. Nikki Haley, terrible. Oh my gosh, that woman gets on my nerves. But and same with Ivanka Trump. I cannot stand that woman and her support for trans and LGBTQ and women in the workforce. God, give me a break. But the fact that Trump listens to Jared Kushner so much, who has been a lifelong progressive, he is a supporter of open borders, and then he gives him the authority to write a bill on foreign immigration. What? And so this, again, we got to call balls and strikes here. Trump may have great rhetoric, he may help move the Overton window. But the fact that he allows Jared Kushner to write some of this legislation, give me a break. Are you kidding me? Oh. And so, next quality of a good leader is to hold people accountable. Does he hold people accountable? I don't know. Maybe a little bit. I mean, of course, he likes to fire people, the whole apprentice sort of reputation, right? But does he? I don't see it. I mean, he fired Jeff Sessions, the AG, and got Barr because of the Russiagate fiasco. But then we see the whole Sessions and Tuberville thing going on in Alabama for the Senate race. I don't know if you guys are following this. But basically, Trump just keeps bashing Jeff Sessions, who was an essential character and trying to help him get into office in the first place. And he's in favor of this guy, Tuberville, who's basically a Democrat that's running as a Republican. And he's supporting him just because he's in opposition to Sessions. And so that, to me, again, ties back to the humility problem. The very first quality, the number one quality, right, that all these people were saying about leadership is that you have to be humble. You have to be willing to, you can't let your pride get in the way. And it seems like that isn't the case for Trump, that his pride gets in the way quite a bit, actually. And the fact that he's going to, support some sort of fake Republican guy, and just because he's in opposition to Sessions, weak stuff. Weak. So holding others accountable, I don't really see it. I think, for him, holding people accountable, sending out a tweet that ats them, that's like Trump trying to hold people accountable. More people have quit than really been fired, it seems like, and I could be wrong, but at least that's my perception. Now, the next characteristic, and I would say, I don't know how well he would score on this one. I'm interested what you guys, your feedback is. That is, a leader commands respect, and that you cannot lead unless you're respected. And when I think about the Omarosas, and you can say, well, these people, not Omarosa, but the Mattises of the world, the John Boltons, that these are all deep staters, right? But it seems like so many of these people that leave his administration speak ill of him. They immediately are backbiters. They talk behind his back. They do all this stuff, and it seems like they would only do that against somebody that they don't ultimately respect, and that the relationship from the beginning was built on a sort of give and take, that they wanted something, Trump could offer them that thing, and so they took it, and then once they didn't have that thing, well, that throw him to the wolves, this or that. So the fact, command respect, I don't know. He has a firm handshake. You look at him shake Macron's hand of France, or Trudeau of Canada, and those little wimpy beta males, and he kind of pulls them across the stage with his forceful handshake. I mean, it's funny, it's humorous, it's entertaining. But does he command respect? I don't know. When I think of somebody who commands respect, even though I may disagree with things, I definitely disagree with the Xi from China. Does he command respect? Yeah, it seems like other world leaders maybe respect him. Putin, it seems like people respect Vladimir Putin. Am I in opposition to some of the things he's doing, like building mosques across Russia? Yeah, not a big fan. But it seems like, Putin at least commands respect. Viktor Orban, this is somebody who I'm actually very fond of. The leader of Hungary, the prime minister of Hungary, Viktor Orban. I'm a big fan of him. I wish we had an American Viktor Orban. He stands up for tradition. He stands up for his nation. He stands up for Christianity. He directly denounces the sort of degenerate, satanic, pedophilic, LGBTQ, Western, post-American, post-Christian enterprise that's happening, that's, flooding the Western world. I mean, and then, side note here, but something I was thinking about recently was, okay, so clearly the West is sort of the main focal point of degeneracy in the world right now. Clearly, from a Christian worldview, that's all because of its relationship to Satan. And it seems like, not that evil things aren't happening in China, they absolutely are, other places in the world, but it got me thinking, it's like, of course, Satan would want to take over the West because of the sort of Christian lineage, the Christian historicity of European tradition. And so whether that be East or West, clearly it looks like, the devil under the disguise of the Jewish Bolshevik Soviet Union enterprise tried to destroy Eastern Europe. That didn't work, and so a resurgence of sort of traditional nationalism is at hand now. But in regards to the West, it seems like the devil definitely won, and the West is basically his resting place. I mean, it is just a great satanic culture that we live in right now. And so, okay, I'm seeing some guys say Putin commands respect. Exactly, I think so too. I like watching clips of Putin shutting down journalists. Orban is supremely base. Absolutely. I'm a big fan of Orban. In my humble opinion, politically, liberalism has won. How to preserve heritage America outside the satanic order? That's a good question. And so we have to then identify what exactly are we saving. If we are in America, if we are Americans, and when we're clearly in this revolution, what is it that we're fighting for? What is it that we're preserving? Because it can't be secularism. It can't be the degenerate West. It can't be corporatism. It can't be McDonald's. It can't be Amazon and Google. What are we fighting for? And I say it has to be Christ. It has to be Christ. And in fact, that's why I created this t-shirt. Because what we have to fight for is Christ. And we reignite Christ into the sort of American context and sort of American culture. And so we can still be Americans. We can be, these sort of frontiersmen. I mean, there is something to be proud about in regards to being American. Like, our ancestors who built this country. Have you guys driven across this country before? Like when I took a rental car and drove, from Indiana to Colorado Springs to Yellowstone, through there, went through the desert in Nevada, went to Lake Tahoe. And when you go to Yellowstone, for example, and you drive through there, or you go, it's just amazing to think about the settlers who traveled all across the United States in nothing but a horse and buggy and built this country. I mean, just driving through Yellowstone itself and seeing telephone poles on sides of mountains, you're like, oh my, how did they put that telephone pole there? And that is something to be proud of. The conquering of the land and the building of a foundation of a society, that's not a degenerate Native American paganism. I know that would rub some people the wrong way, but we're not into animism. We're not into paganism. The only truth is Jesus Christ. So that's what, as we being Americans, that's what we need. We need to realize what we're preserving is Christ. That's what we're going to die for. We're going to die for our families, our brothers and sisters, right? Our parents, our kids, our grandkids, and Christ. And we're Americans. And we are frontiersmen. We are the tip of the spear in regards to sort of innovation and doing things, but we've lost all that because we've given it away because we've been attached to sin for so long. And that's why this country is so degenerate. And that's why our biggest export is degeneracy. I don't know if you guys saw, but the damn pride flag is flying at the embassy in South Korea, at the embassy in Moscow, Russia. I mean, this is what people see when they look at America from the outside. It's just degeneracy. It's just homosexuals. It's trans people, like, and that's sort of on us, not us individuals, because it's sort of the baby boomers, but it's on Americans that have allowed that to happen because of their willingness to engage with sin and just give everything away. We've lost our power. We gave our power away. We gave it away. And that's why, again, we need real leaders. We need real leaders in the church. And so I speak right now in the American context of somebody like a Father Trenum, Josiah Trenum, a Hans Jacobsy, both priests in the Antiochian church. I think they're both in California, but these are men that command respect. These are men who speak the truth. They don't hold back. And so these are leaders. These are people we can look up to, and we can, again, reinsert Christ into American culture. This is what we're fighting for. And so that is, again, how us as a country can command respect, because at one time, America was a sort of leader of the world, and it was for good things. Now, you can get into how they were still promoting corporatism and all this stuff, but there was something beautiful about the 1950s, if you ask me, in regards to the emphasis on the family. We've just come back from World War II. And again, we can get into World War II and the sort of complexities of that whole narrative, not being what we're told or educated. So, there are plenty of atrocities that were committed by the Americans, by the British, but certainly by the Russians. So it wasn't just this, the bad Nazis thing. I mean, communism's much worse than the Nazis were, but that's neither here nor there. Anyways, you guys got me going. I saw one of the comments on, what exactly are we fighting for, preserving as Americans? And that's why I think it's Christ, man. And that's why, again, a provocative, countercultural American symbol that says we are going to die for Christ. That's why I created this shirt. So if you're interested, you can get one at that store location there. But yeah, so let's go to the next the last general quality of a leader that I have here is you must be secure and not insecure in oneself. Because this was discussed by the people that I was kind of getting research from in preparation for this video, is that any insecurity is a vulnerability, not just to yourself, but then to everybody who you lead. And so when we look at Trump, we see an incredibly insecure individual, whether it be about his hand size, whether it be about his rhetoric, he's the best at words. We see somebody, and it's tied to pride, right? He has too much pride, not enough humility, and I think he's just an insecure individual. It could be because the relationship with his father. I know he always wanted to sort of gain the admiration and approval of his father, And maybe there's some of that in there. I have no idea. I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist or whatever, but I don't know. I just see a man who, again, like somebody said on here, all tweet, no action. That's definitely been the case. And to me, that is, there's something insecure about Trump. There is a deep insecurity. Now, I'm glad he's not a drunkard. He doesn't drink alcohol. He's a hard worker. He loves to work. He's up early in the morning, goes to bed late at night. I like those characteristics, but there is something insecure. And so, anyways, that's my general wrap up of the general qualities of leadership and how I think they apply to Trump. Now, what I want to do is read to you guys what I think is actually really useful. Is what was written on this site called Bible Study Tools, and talking about what the Bible says about leadership. And so what I want to read to you guys now is, it says, what is biblical leadership? And I just want to, based on everything that I said and even your guys' own opinion, just keep in mind as we discuss King Saul versus King David, which one does Donald Trump embody more? And I think there's going to be qualities of both that are sort of applicable, but just keep that in mind as I move through this. So, what is biblical leadership? The examples of King Saul and King David are helpful in discerning what type of leader and leadership pleases and displeases God. In 1 Samuel chapter 15, we read of Israel's King Saul disobeying God's instruction communicated to him through the prophet Samuel. In verse 12, we see Saul has drifted so far from God that he set up a monument in his own honor. Now, this is where, again, this right here is the attribute which I think Trump probably aligns with King Saul quite a bit in regards to, again, the megalomaniac, the narcissism, that a sort of worship of oneself, right? The fact that he puts Trump on everything, like everything has Trump on it, everything has his name on it. I even saw his son, Donald Trump Jr., and it was a half joke, but it was sort of half serious in regards to how he deserves his own statues and monuments in America. And it's like, nobody who, I don't know, that it just rubbed me the wrong way. It's like, I want to venerate people because whatever they did, they're so competent or so noteworthy that other people want to set up a statue. Having your son who's named directly after you as a junior talk about how you need your own statues, I don't know. It just really rubbed me the wrong way. And so I think that framework actually sort of places Trump in a sort of King Saul position. But as we'll see with King David and his problems with fornication, I think there's obviously some overlap there with Trump. But, Trump has done, like I said, good things. And we're going to get to those here in a second. But so when Samuel confronted him over disobeying God, Saul lied about why and rationalized his actions. Mincing no words, Samuel tells Saul that because of his rebellion and arrogance, God has rejected him as Israel's king and decided to replace him. In 1 Samuel chapter 16, God defends Samuel to Jesse of Bethlehem to anoint one of Jesse's sons as the next king. When Samuel sees Jesse's firstborn son, he assumes God has selected him, but the Lord informs him otherwise. Quote, this is a quote from 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 7, "Do not consider his appearance or his weight, for I have rejected him. The Lord does not look at the things people look at. People look at outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart." 7 sons in all come from Samuel, and not one is God's choice. Samuel then asks Jesse if all his sons are present and is informed that the youngest, David, is off tending sheep. David is sent for, and when he arrives, God tells Samuel this one will be Israel's next king. What was it about David that pleased the Lord? David wholeheartedly loved and trusted the Lord, and that was the foundation for his actions. God says, quote, "I have found David, son of Jesse, a man after my own heart. He will do everything I want him to do," unquote. In 1 Samuel chapter 17, we see that David trusted the Lord so much that he had the courage to take on Goliath, a challenge that looked foolish in the world's eyes because Goliath, an experienced Philistine warrior who had been taunting and terrifying the army of King Saul for 40 days, was so much bigger and stronger than the young shepherd. Because he placed his trust in the Lord, David defeated Goliath with God's help. David's heartfelt love for God is on display throughout David's Psalms. How he worshiped and adored God, how he cried out to God during difficult times, how he longed to please God, and how he grieved over the times he sinned, and even asked God to forgive sins he was unaware of. And that is a reference to Psalms chapter 19, verse 12. David was far from perfect, as we all are far from perfect. Before choosing him, God knew, because of his omniscience, that David would one day abuse his power as king and enter into an intimate relationship with a married woman, then have her husband murdered to cover up his sin. Yet despite David's brokenness, God knew that he would seek to be close to the Lord and to do his will. He strayed pretty far from the Lord's will at times, but the arc of David's life was aligned with God's will, and God blessed him and blessed Israel for it. In addition to loving the Lord, David loved the people he was responsible for leading. Psalm chapter 78, verse 72 describes David's leadership of Israel this way, quote, "David cared for Israel with a true heart and led them with skillful hands," competency. In his succinct verse are two critical aspects of leadership. Both the heart to love the people one leads and leadership skills are important to lead well. David had both. David had the skills of a leader so that he could perform the task of leadership with excellence. Leadership tasks include communicating vision and necessary action to support it, making wise decisions about issues including strategy, delegation, and authority, and selecting leaders and advisors. In addition, David had a true heart that cared for people, which allowed him to develop relationship excellence with the people he led. From the examples of Saul and David, we can glean important wisdom about leadership. David was a God-centered leader. Saul became a self-centered leader. First, like David, seek God's will and love him with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. When you sin, and you will, earnestly seek God's forgiveness. Pray for God's wisdom and guidance, and when you sense he is calling you to do something, do it. Love the people you are responsible for leading, and finally, develop excellence in the skills of leadership. David, as a leader, developed both task excellence and relationship excellence in his relationship with God and the people he led. So, that is something that I wanted to share with you in regards to sort of looking at the difference between King Saul and King David. I think there is a lot there. Does anybody have some... I'm just going to check the chat real quick. Hey guys, if you haven't, please like this video. I would greatly appreciate it. It helps get the video promoted here on YouTube. So that was one thing that I wanted to share. There's another section here that I wanted to share in regards to what makes a good leader, and this is more of a Christ-centered discussion. And so let me run through this one as well. So what makes a good leader? Again, this is from a biblical perspective. And Jesus emptied himself and came to serve, not to be served. And this was a big point that was actually highlighted by somebody like a Jocko Willink, is that when you're a leader, the mission, the purpose which you're leading for has to supersede oneself. And again, that's why, guys, when you look at Christ, as you know, he is the truth. He is truth. And so even if you want to go off into sort of archetypal understanding, sort of symbolic semiotics of it's still true. And Christ is all of that. He's all of that and more. So When you look at how he came to serve and not be served, again, that is what a leader does. He is the ultimate leader. So I just wanted to throw that in there. The N.T. Wright, the New Testament scholar, expressed an important aspect of Jesus' death and resurrection when he observed that it showed that the power of love is greater than the love of power. When you stop and think about that, it makes sense. Both the religious authorities and the Romans ruled with power. The religious authorities felt threatened by Jesus' growing influence, so they could collude to have him killed by the Romans, or the Jews, who crucified anyone who threatened their power. Jesus showed another way to lead. He let them take their best shot at stopping him by allowing them to crucify him. The power to put Jesus to death was man's ultimate power. But then Jesus showed God's way as superior to the power of men when he defeated death and rose from the grave. His sacrifice sending a profound message, triumph over the unseen principalities and powers, and atoning for our transgressions so that we might be reconciled and reconnected with God. Like Jesus, leaders are called to follow God's will, which calls for staying connected to Him, dying to self, and following His will for our lives. Doing so will require faith, for God may ask you to do what is foolish in the eyes of the world. God called Moses to raise his staff to part the Red Sea. God called Abraham to leave the land of his birth without knowing where he was going. He called Noah to build an ark before any rain had fallen. God called Esther to go before the king, although she had not been summoned, a risk that could have led to her death. Biblical leadership often, if not always, entails the call to take a visible step of faith that looks foolish from the world's perspective. And I think that is something we can all take with us, guys. Every single one of us has a purpose. We have a purpose. We have to figure out what that is. We have a skill, and it's on us to begin to move in that direction. And so, that again, taking that first step of faith and doing it, I'm telling you guys, it will begin to work out. It's just, you have to do it. You have to take action. Much is at stake for how we respond to God. Are we connected or not? Will we obey or not? When God's people, including leaders, follow His will by staying connected to Him and the body of Christ and take the steps of faith God calls us to take, then we contribute to creating a reflection of what Jesus referred to as the kingdom of God or kingdom of heaven, described in Revelation chapter 1, verse 1 through 3. Seeing this reflection of God's kingdom shows people that God loves them as Jesus prayed for in John chapter 17, verse 20 through 23. When the kingdom of God comes in all its fullness, we will live for eternity in God's presence. Leading God's way calls us to lead from love and connection, using our skills wisely. Again, our skills. Leading God's way begins with our relationship with Him. Why not ask Him to help you draw near to Him in a fresh way and to those He calls you to lead? And that's what I think is a beautiful thing for all of us to really think about and pray for. So I just wanted to say that. Okay, so to conclude this video, then I wanted to go down my good and bad and the ugly sort of key points of Trump. So first one on the bad side, I've already mentioned slow on the border wall, right? How big was the campaign? In 2016 was all about the wall, making Mexico pay for it, this or that. And then I think Ann Coulter has been a rightful critic of Trump and sort of how slow this has actually come. A good one, as I've already mentioned, is that he's politically incorrect. The fact that the president of the United States is politically incorrect, I think it gives us a sort of freedom to also be politically incorrect. Whereas if you can imagine, say some sort of Nancy was the president, and I don't mean Nancy Pelosi, I meant like a feminized man who just went along with the whole agenda and just continued to support sort of politically correct language, that, it would put all of us in even a worse position. Imagine somebody who is totally aligned with Google and big tech and all this stuff that was in the presidency right now. So, to a degree, Trump gives us a sort of freedom because of his political incorrectness. And so I think that is something to actually celebrate or sort of applaud him for. So I think that's a good thing. My next bullet point on a bad thing about Trump is he hasn't brought the troops home. How much did he talk about these foreign wars, right? 9/11 occurred. What nation were all those terrorists from? Oh, Saudi Arabia. Okay, Saudi Arabia. So what do we do after they knock down? Again, I'm not even going to get into, the third tower that fell, but we go to Iraq. We take out Saddam Hussein. We go to Libya, we take out Gaddafi, and so the whole agenda, the neocon globalist agenda for Israel, right? This is an Israeli agenda to take out the biggest threats in the Middle East. That included Iraq, that included Syria, that included Libya, that includes, we're only in Afghanistan for the poppy. So again, to get the poppy and then sell it back to Americans to get them addicted to Oxycontin, which the Sackler family, and you can imagine what tribe they're from. And Iran is another country that they want to take out. So Trump hasn't brought the troops home, and he's still perpetuating the sort of strong rhetoric against Iran, the sort of false dialect between Israel and Iran. I mean, so big, dancing Israelis. Yeah, just saying, exactly. It's frustrating. It's frustrating to say the least. So the fact that he hasn't brought the troops home, another major negative. All rhetoric, no action, or as somebody said, all tweets, no action. Now, something that's good is, as I mentioned, he's getting other countries to pay back our debts, especially European nations who have been basically just taking, and then at the same time mocking us for the entire time, and sort of that. That sort of European superiority that sometimes emerges between, the dumb American and the sophisticated European. It's been nice to sort of, that he's trying to get some money back. But in regards to that sort of dialectic between the dumb American and the sophisticated European, look who has the guns. Because I think with what's happening with the migrant crisis, with the immigrants that are flooding into Europe, and we all know who's behind that. Well, at least, we were smart enough to keep our guns. We were smart enough to at least allow ourselves to fight. Even if we're going to be annihilated, at least we can fight back. So but I do agree that generally speaking, Europe actually does have a sort of finer sophistication, much more linguistically savvy, the way they dress, they're not as obese, this type of thing. So, generally speaking, I can actually kind of get on board with the sort of European sophistication. I think there is something there, and the sort of casualness of even American attire. Not a biggest fan. I actually, deep down, I actually really like European culture. So just throwing that out there. But at least he's telling Merkel what's up. He's, he'll say what he feels about Macron. So I think there's, again, something good there about getting other countries to start paying back some of the debt. So I think that's a good thing. Another bad thing, major servant of Israel. As you guys know, I'm not telling you guys anything you don't already know. He is bought and paid for, the Sheldon Adelson, Bernard Marcus, the major Jews that fund the Trump campaign in 2016. Unfortunately, Trump is a shill for Israel, and the movement of the embassy to Jerusalem, this is not just some random movement. This is all part of a sort of apocalyptic Jewish understanding of the construction of the third temple. So again, I'm sure most of you guys are already aware, but in case you aren't, the whole idea is that from a Christian perspective, we're talking about the Antichrist. From the Jewish perspective, they're talking about the true Messiah, a political Messiah who's going to rule the world from Jerusalem. That's why they want to move all these nations' embassies to Jerusalem, make it the capital of Israel. And so that's where they want to build the third temple. Now, again, from a Christian perspective, this is all sort of apocalyptic prophecy of the Antichrist. So I don't need to get into the Schofield Bible. I don't need to get into American evangelicism and sort of Israel creating a voting bloc in the United States. But we see how that is a tie to Trump. And we see that in the form of Mike Pence, again, former governor of my state of Indiana. So not good stuff there. Not a big fan of that. But it needs to be said, Trump is a servant of Israel. It seems like that is his highest priority. I would say one of the defining features of Trump's presidency is America second, Israel first. And I don't think that's an overstatement. Okay, moving on to a third attribute that I think is positive is that Trump labels himself a nationalist. The fact that he says nationalism, the fact that he says he is a nationalist, I think this is a good thing. I think that it allows, again, it shifts the Overton window. It allows us to talk about nationalism, and it allows much more. Nationalism is surging across many, many countries right now, and so the fact that we have a president who claims to be a nationalist, who supports nationalistic rhetoric and sort of some ideas, some of his stuff doesn't seem like it totally aligns with nationalism, but the fact that he says that he supports nationalism, I think this is a good thing. This is a really good thing. Again, this is because for me, Trump just symbolizes the pendulum of progressiveness, right? So if we look at traditional American values, let's say in the 1800s, and this whole idea of progressivism, right? Because in the early, in the 1920s, progressivism, socialism, this stuff was rampant. So the progressive ideology has been moving to the left for the last a little over 100 years. And it's got to the point where I think Trump's presidency symbolizes this pendulum stopping and beginning to swing back to the right. And so him talking about nationalism, him talking sort of underhandedly about race and demographics, and I think these are all good things. I think these are good things. Despite some of the other stuff, I think this is something that should be celebrated, should be noted. So, give credit where credit's due. Now, the next bad one that I have is prison reform. Again, that was a Jared Kushner special there, and I just see this as a sort of slow movement and legislation of what all these Democrat cities were doing by letting the criminals out of prison, and that the prison reform. I'm not a big fan. Maybe, I don't know, call me a name, call me something, but I'm just not a big fan of it because we've already seen recidivism rates being very, very high. Now, I get it for some of the nonviolent crimes. I get the prison industrial complex, how these prisons are privately owned. I understand how that can be problematic. But generally speaking, I'm just not a big fan of anything Jared Kushner does or anything his name is on. And so the prison reform that Trump tries to, to prance out for the black vote, they're not going to vote for you. Like, he's not going to get over 10%. I'd be surprised if he gets over 6%. Like, I don't understand this, where he's going on about black unemployment over and over and over again. I just don't understand it. Justin Stam just sent me a super chat. Oh, thank you very much, brother. I really, really appreciate that. He said, great stream. Thank you, Justin. He said, here, I need to make you a moderator. There. He said, great stream. You've crossed the Rubicon with this one. So when will the Daisy Dukes be available on your store? That's a good one. Thank you so much, brother. I really, really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you very much. But yeah, it makes no sense getting back to Trump and the sort of gross pandering to the black vote, which he's not going to get. It's only 13% of the population. There's no way in hell I don't think he's gonna get over 10%. I've heard some of these Trump people, Candace Owens says he's gonna get over 30%. No way. He's not even gonna get over 10%. That, I would be absolutely surprised if he gets over 10%. Justin, that was funny, bro. Thank you. But yeah, the sort of pandering to the black vote, talking about prison reform, talking about black low unemployment, dude, they don't care. Like, why don't you do something for the actual constituents that voted for you? And so uh, this is what sort of really irritates me about Trump lately. It seems like the people who actually voted for him, he is just totally taken for granted. And he's doing everything he can to sort of get the Latino vote or the black vote or the female vote. It's like, dude, who cares? Go with what you won with, and then allow others to realize that that is a better ideology and they'll join in. But the sort of pandering just, it really irritates me, really. I don't like it. So, anyways, that was prison reform. I think that's a bad thing, actually. Domestic manufacturing. This is a thing that I think is positive. Trump promotes domestic manufacturing. I am all for that. I'm all for made in America. I absolutely am. If I could, I would only buy in America. I think there should be a law that says, if you make in America, you should have like a special label on whatever product you make. And we should have websites where you can go to, and so people can just buy from them, because that is sustainability. That is true nationalism. That is true sovereignty. That is how we move forward in the world. And we can't move forward if we're always buying from the same globalist infrastructure that they created by outsourcing everything to China or Vietnam or wherever. Like, we got to make our own stuff. That's true freedom. And so I'm big on domestic manufacturing, and I think that is a real strong point for Trump. I think, again, that was huge. That's what rocketed the economy, is because of the emphasis on domestic manufacturing. So big proponent of that, and I think he did a really good job there. Where I'm very critical, another bad thing is that he wants more foreign labor. I don't know if you guys have heard this, but he's on record talking about how we need more foreign visas for these tech jobs. He wants to create all these tech jobs. He wanted to create the factory, I think, Foxconn or something up in Michigan or Wisconsin. It's like, oh, and we need some foreign people to come in because they have the skills Americans don't. Then teach Americans the skills. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Bringing in foreign labor? No, absolutely not. And so the fact that he talks about that and thinks somehow this is a pro-American agenda, I don't know if Kushner's got his ear or he's been listening to Ivanka talk nonsense. I don't get it. But no, absolutely not. Like, we need to hire American. We need to make American. Buy American. If the Americans don't have the skills, you're the president. Write an order demanding that the next 6 months Americans sign up and they get the skills necessary to do whatever they need to do. What are you talking about? No more foreigners. Period. Okay, so I think that's a bad thing. Now, a good thing is obviously he's good for the economy. He's a businessman. Now, of course, we see by these stimulus, we see the wealthiest in the country get all the money. Not a big fan. So the stimulus is, I don't know if you guys have seen some of the graphs that have come out. And again, I could be misinformed, but it seemed like the billionaires, or at least the top 1% of America, really was incentivized through the sort of stimulus packages that were passed through the House, through the Senate, approved by Trump, all this stuff. So I don't know. But at the same time, I have retired parents that live off their retirement that need a good economy. And so when Trump is doing well in the stock market, that directly affects, people I know. That directly affects my family, and that fluctuates every single day. So the fact Trump does stuff and the stock market has bounced back after COVID, that's a good thing. Again, we can talk about usury and how that whole system is flawed and it's based on debt and all these different problems, but that's what my parents live off of. So it's like, you don't want that to just go away. And my parents are just symptomatic of so many other people across this country. So I think he's good for the economy, clearly. Now he's pro LGBTQ. That is what I used for my thumbnail. Disgusting, degenerate, clearly anti-Christian, and even Trump's evangelical minister is a woman. I mean, that's even non-biblical. Show me in the Bible, especially if you're a Protestant and you believe in sola scriptura, yet then you believe in you promote homosexuality and you have female ministers. Point to me again. You've totally undercut your entire epistemology. Your sola scriptura is your epistemology, and then you reject Scripture itself by promoting this stuff. What are you doing? And so his little female evangelical minister, I mean, she's like all about money and has a mansion and all this stuff. Really degenerate stuff. I mean, in my mind, almost evil. I don't know her, but I don't like her. And but the fact that he promotes LGBTQ stuff, and I can't even stand Ivanka Trump. That woman drives me nuts. She is, Nikki Haley drives me nuts. Ivanka Trump drives me nuts. If I never saw her again, I'd probably be happy. She is throughout June always promoting sort of LGBTQ pride nonsense. It's just disgusting. It's disgusting. And the whole Trump family, and that's the problem, is they're not real conservatives. They're conservatives in the American 2020 landscape. But it shows you how far this country has fallen. There is no principles. There are no real ultimate values. It's just dollar signs. So not a fan of him promoting that stuff. And that's why I made that the thumbnail and put a crisis in leadership, because I don't think any leader needs to be promoting that stuff. Oh, man, I got a super chat. Thank you, Joshua Schmidt, 1999. Thank you very much, brother. I wish there was more bread to go with the 2020 circus. Oh, I know, man. We are living in crazy times. Again, thank you very much, Joshua. I really appreciate that, brother. Really, really do. And 2020 is an absolute circus, man. It's clown world. It's upside down. It's evil. It's what's going to come next, though. I know Dyer. He thinks that the gay alien invasion is going to happen next. Very possible. There's a real possibility that they're going to bring out, and I've even been flipping through TV at night just bored, and they're replaying like Independence Day, and I've been seeing a lot of sort of alien invasion movies and stuff like that, and almost seems, are they priming people? I saw CNN say that some high intelligence officer that aliens are among us. And again, for me, the alien invasion, it's going to be a way to probably kill people or, mass psychological control, sort of mind warping. To me, from a Christian perspective, aliens are demons, period. If they're not angels, they're demons. Clearly aliens aren't angels. And my point is, since they aren't angels, they're clearly demons. And so the whole alien phenomenon of that these higher intelligent beings are going to come and rescue us, I see as really a sort of atheistic, a sort of secular yearning for a transcendent power. Of course, they can't transcend creation, so they create something within creation, meaning they create another created entity from some other planet somewhere in a galaxy far, far away. I think this is sort of a... And that's why all this stuff, the ancient aliens, the Nazca lines, no. I don't believe aliens have been visiting this planet. I don't believe world religions are about that crap. No. But as Joshua Schmidt said, 2020 is a circus. Is this what's going to come next? I don't know, but it very much could be. So again, I just want to thank everybody. Thank you, Hunter, very much for the super chat to start off. Thank you, Justin Stam, my good buddy, holding things down in San Diego. I hope everything's well with you and your family, brother. And thank you very much, Joshua Schmidt, for the 1999. I really, really do appreciate that. So anyways, back to a positive thing in regards to Trump. I would say that I think the fact that he promotes a sort of national pride is actually a good thing. Now, we can, again, be very critical of Americanism and all the what America promotes. I understand, and I recognize that. But even from a Christian understanding, from an Orthodox understanding, we're supposed to be supportive and promote our nation. This is all providential. We're here. I am American. I live in America. I want America to do well. Now, I see America being the biggest exporter of absolute degeneracy across the world. I want that to end. I want to end Hollywood. I want to end all this stuff. So, again, that's why I was saying that we as Americans need to think about what is it that we're fighting for, and we're fighting for Christ in the American context. So, the fact that Trump promotes a sort of national pride, I think, is a good thing, because if you looked at the opposition, there is nothing to be proud about if you're an American there. So no thanks. Trump wants more women in the workforce. I think this is a negative. This is another bullet point that I say is bad. More women in the workforce. Now, if you're a woman and you want to be a medical doctor or a lawyer, I think you should be allowed to do what you want to do in regards because some women do have a really strong predisposition to do things, and they're good at it and they're competent and they should be able to do that. But generally, as a cultural trend or value, especially with his sort of rhetoric on, underlying rhetoric of demographics and stuff, well, then you should want women to be at home. You should promote families. And we all know that the strongest families are families with a man who has the ability to make an income that can support an entire family, and a mother who spends time at home with children. That's just a fact. Biological mothers with their biological children, with the biological father in the house, does enormous positive things for the psychological development, the spiritual development, the emotional development, the social development of children. And so we need more of that. And so evil, Satan, of course, wants to destroy that. So we see that already being promoted by the Black Lives Movement. They want to destroy the nuclear family. Well, I think, and I know Trump isn't promoting the destruction of the nuclear family, but I think he's just not as privy to some of the stuff that he promotes. And I think by promoting, all the women in the workforce like he does, him and Ivanka, Ivanka's all about women in the workforce. Ivanka, why don't you stay at home with your children? Why are you at the White House be home with your children? Be a mother. That is way more important than trying to dress up in all these expensive dresses and get people to be envious of you. Be a mother. That's the highest calling. For a man, being a father is the highest calling. Being the president should come second to being a father. And that, so we need to reorient our perception and our value structure. And so that's just where I'm at with some of that stuff. So I'm not a big fan of the promotion of women in the workforce, although I think women who are predisposed and have skill sets and predilections to do certain things, they should be able to do that. But I promote a traditional Christian family. Period. And I think that if we had strong Christian leaders in politics, then they would do that too. But we don't see a single one. They all want to promote women in the workforce, which just lowers then wages. More people in the workforce lowers wages. Not good. Not good. And so it's sort of double talk. It doesn't make any sense to me. A positive of Trump. Well, he has good rhetoric. I think the good, strong rhetoric. Now we can say he doesn't follow through. He's weak on action. He's all tweet, no action. But his strong rhetoric, I think, is a good thing. And so I've already kind of belabored that point. I'm not going to go too much into it, but basically his strong rhetoric helps supporters. It helps move the Overton window, I think, in the right direction. Now, another negative I see as, well, he gives too much power to Kushner. I've kind of already said that. I say he's a megalomaniac. I've already kind of talked about that and his inability to be humble, which according to many, especially in the military, is the number one attribute of a leader. So the fact that he's not humble and he's too wrapped up in pride, I've kind of already talked about that one. But here's another one that it's more recent. I don't know if you guys saw the sort of town hall he did with Sean Hannity on Fox News. I'm not a big Sean Hannity guy. Tucker Carlson, never been a big fan. In fact, when I was sort of on the left side of stuff, he was on a show, I think it was called Crossfire, and he used to wear a bow tie. And Jon Stewart went on there, and this was my first introduction to who Tucker Carlson was. Jon Stewart went on Crossfire and basically dismantled him and the other guy and made Tucker Carlson look a bit foolish. And that's who I always understood Tucker Carlson as. Then he came to Fox News. I kind of never paid attention but within basically the last year and a half, he's been pretty solid. And then within the last, I'd say 2 to 3 months, he's the only person on Fox News worth listening to. Again, I don't watch Fox News. I'm actually tired of OAN. I used to watch OAN. That's where, if I was going to turn on news, I'd listen to OAN. Their promotion of this COVID nonsense is just ridiculous. Ridiculous. All their pretty, OAN has a bunch of pretty women reporters. The way they report on this COVID nonsense, it's like, do you not know what a PCR test? Do you not know what have you not been following any of this stuff? Have you not seen how asymptomatic people are very, very unlikely to spread? Have you not seen how low the death rate is? What are you doing? It makes no sense. So, but in the town hall with Sean Hannity, Trump said that he's fine. He understands that some monuments might be want to be taken down. He just wants them to do it legally. Legal? What? That to me is weak. That is a weak form of leadership, that you're okay with this stuff being taken down as long as they do it legally. No, nothing gets taken down. It's history. I'm tired of it. Nothing gets taken down. Leave it there. You can put up new monuments, other places, of new things, of new people. But the ones that are already there, leave them. It doesn't make any sense. So I just find that totally unbecoming of a leader. And I find it very weak, and I don't like it. And I think it's, again, Trump trying to sort of acquiesce to them, try to please everybody. He wants to, I'm for law and order. He tweets law and order, law and order, law and order. Doesn't do anything. For example, Michelle Malkin had a great idea that on the 4th of July, why doesn't Trump I think he is actually going to do a rally at Mount Rushmore. Okay, good. Do one there, and then tell all the people who support Trump or support keeping out the monuments, which is a majority of the U.S. I think it's like 70%. Tell them to go defend their monuments in a show of solidarity, in opposition to all the protesters. Go defend your monuments. Make a national day where you tell people to do that. That would be something that would be good. That would be a leading maneuver. You don't see him doing that. And so the fact that he's okay with these being taken down as long as they go through a court system, oh, come on. Oh, I found it weak. Not a big fan. So, a positive, though, and related to that he did pass the sort of Statues Act recently where people will get prosecuted and go to prison for up to 10 years. Now, whether they will, probably not. They probably won't even be charged the full 10 years. They'll probably be charged like 2 years, so they only have to serve 1 year, and they'll get out in 6 months, even if they go to prison, depending on what state they're in. So who knows? So I think the Statues Act that he's kind of passed through executive order, I think that's good. It's a movement in the right direction. So I'll give him credit there. Where I think he's been extremely, extremely weak is tech censorship. How long has he been monitoring the situation? And the fact that he hasn't done anything about this. And I know people would say, well, what do you want him to do? Well, he can do something. He can begin to do something. And then the fact when the Senate, oh my gosh, when the Senate did the hearing and all those old men are asking questions about tech and just looking absolutely foolish. What are you guys doing? What are you guys doing? Like, do you not understand how you're doing? You're hurting yourselves by going up there and not knowing what you're talking about. Like, why are you not having the YouTubers come in and talk about this stuff? I mean, they have a few, but I don't know. The whole tech censorship is a really weak point for me and Trump. I just don't think he's done much of anything there. I think, again, an immense lack of leadership. It's just all rhetoric. It's all tweets, no action, again. And so that's probably one of the biggest points and one of the most frustrating points of the people who helped get him elected were online influencers. And then look at the purges that just occurred. Look at Stefan Molyneux. Look at Reddit and the Donald. Look at
what's her name? Sidney Powell, the lawyer to General Flynn, getting kicked off Twitter. I mean, do something. You are the president. Show some real initiative and leadership. And so weak, very weak, very, very weak there. And then my last good point for Trump is that he irritates all the right people. So even if he is displaying ineptitude and immense weakness in certain areas, the people who are just absolutely irritated by him, I think are the fact that he irritates those people, I think is a very positive thing. So I think that's great. Really, I think that's great that those people are irritated. So that's probably my last positive thing, and then my last negative is that about all the Trump supporters that have been attacked in public, I don't think he's done much of anything. So. Yeah. So I think that's another really weak point, is that it doesn't seem like he's really stood up for a lot of his supporters that have been attacked publicly. So that's really all I had to say about Trump. Again, the coronavirus stuff, I think he promotes this hoax. He wants to talk about ventilators and how good he was with ventilators. Ventilators were killing people. Like, what are you talking about? Ventilators... No, ventilators are not, I'm glad that you were able to maneuver them and get them around the country. But as somebody who's familiar with the healthcare and, has family that doing that stuff, like not too impressed with his rhetoric on coronavirus and COVID. I think not the kind of leadership that I'm looking for. So that kind of sums up this video. That's really all I had to say to you guys. It's been a mouthful, as always. I just get on here and start jibber jabbering. I hope it's been insightful. Thank you guys. If you are in a position and you like what I'm doing on this YouTube channel, feel free to go to my website, davidpatrickcarey.com, churchoftheeternallogos.com. And potentially, if you're able to setting up a monthly recurring payment online, I would greatly appreciate that. Let me check out the chat real quick. Craig Westbrook, you call yourself Christians, and yet Christ was a Jew. I'm an obvious anti-Semite. Okay, so I'm against a language group. I mean, just idiocy. I'm an anti-Semite. Do you know what Semitic is? A language group. It's not a people. So dumb comment. Low IQ. Very low IQ. So let's see here. Bottom line, though, do you think Christians should vote for Joe Biden? No, should not vote for Joe Biden. Absolutely not. Vote with your feet, guys. That's why, I think the homestead movement is really where it's at. If you want to be a leader, find a plot of land, find a woman to build a family with, and build a house. Like that's where you want to vote. Like this stuff's all going to fall apart. Do not put your hope in the world. Trump's not going to lead you. Biden's not going to lead you. No politician's going to lead you. Nobody in the world's going to lead you. I'm not going to lead you. But, you are. You got to become the lead. You got to build a family. You got to find a home. You got to grow your food. That's what we all should be aspiring to. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet at all. But that's what I think we all need to move towards. I think that is the future. And so we need to keep that in mind, that, our own self-autonomy, our own freedom, growing our own food. Like that is where we need to be going. We need to be thinking about this stuff. Not that we have to do it right now, because a lot of us probably aren't financially ready. We probably don't have the woman that we need. I know I don't. I'm not financially ready, and I don't have a wife yet. So there's 0 for 2. But that is my trajectory. That is where I'm going. I'm going to find a plot of land. I'm going to build a house. I'm going to find my wife. I'm going to have lots of children. And I am going to have an incredible career, because I'm going to not stop working, educating, doing what I love to do, man. Whatever your guys' skill is. Maybe you make music. Maybe you're an artist. Maybe you're a builder. Maybe you do construction. Maybe you do this or that. But you know that is the future, in my opinion. That is the future. So, um, I don't know. That's just my opinion. I don't think voting for Joe Biden is going to help anybody. Again, I'd rather Trump get elected and give us 4 years to prepare for the ultimate collapse than Joe Biden getting president and then just have the whole power structure turned against us for the next 4 years. So I'm not a big fan, but I'd rather have Trump in there than nobody. Oh, Nick threw in a super chat. Thank you, brother. Favorite fantasy slash adventure movie? Hmm. Favorite fantasy slash adventure movie? Hmm. Hmm. You know, um, I when I immediately think about it, I'm a big fan of sort of the uh I'd probably say you know, even though there's only like one movie, the whole Van Helsing thing, you know, like a sort of you know Christian warrior type spirit, you know, kind of killing vampires, this or that. I don't know. I kind of like that stuff. I'm trying to think. Favorite fantasy slash adventure movie. Um, you know, one of my favorite movies is certainly like a Braveheart, but I like a Van Helsing. I like, you know, the whole sort of fighting evil thing there. I kind of like that. I like mythology. I like old European myth and folklore. So sort of animating that and bringing that to life, I find very appealing, personally. So uh, probably more in that genre and just old Europe. Oh yeah, and Lord of the Rings. Yeah, big. I like Lord of the Rings. Um, I do like. I have all the Lord of the Rings for sure. Yeah, Lord of the Rings. Because you gotta support Tolkien. Tolkien was the man. There's so much meaning in it. You know, once you take Conan is Giga Chad, but Van Helsing is epic. Yeah, Conan. Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. Conan is Giga Chad. I'll double down on that one too. Yeah, so Lord of the Rings, Van Helsing, sort of. I like European folklore and mythology. Um, what do you guys say? You're assuming the national elections have any meaning in my. Okay, John Anon says I have a wife and family, own a home, and have multiple income streams, and will still vote for the imperfect Trump. Trust in God and the Orthodox. Amen, John Anon. Amen, brother. And hey, we are trying to get where you're at, man. Multiple income streams, a wife, a family, own your own home. You are doing it, my brother. Like I'm jealous. I'm trying to be you. I'm trying to be you. Right now, I'm a slave to the system. I have no home. I have no wife. I'm in a bunch of debt, education debt. But you know, most likely the way things are going, all that debt's going to be canceled out because the dollar's not going to mean anything. So that's kind of where I'm at. Um, but yeah, thank you guys for tuning in, John Anon. If it soothes your conscience, go ahead and do it. You seem pretty level-headed. I just don't like to see people get worked up about fake elections. True. Vote for a perfect God and imperfect. Yeah, Gloria Nomad. Yeah, well put. Vote for perfect God, and that's why. And I'm just going to reiterate that. Is that why I think that we need to? Because I see too many of the Christians online. There's a sort of Trump worshiping, you know, and we should only worship Christ and we should hold everybody else to the same standard. You know, not that we're always judging, but that is our rubric, period. That is the rubric. And we're not going to compromise our values. And so I don't know. I think that's important. And holding Trump and all these, again, imperfect Trump, that framework I just totally support. You know, we're Christians first, you know, American second, and you know, Republican, Democrat, whatever that's way down the line. So well put, Gloria. I get it. I definitely don't pull at my faith in government and earthly leaders. Um, Nathaniel DeMont, Bustamante. I probably just won't vote in the election, to be honest. Yeah, I probably won't vote in the. In 2 years ago, I would have said, "Oh yeah, I'm voting for Trump." After the pandemic and then these riots, like I just have no excitement. I have no energy. I have no eagerness. I have no initiative to vote for Trump. Uh, Multiple income streams, not multiple wives. Don't get those confused. Pano, fellow Hoosier, there. And John Anon says we may be in for a global economic reset or civil war. Trust in God, repent of your sins, and let the Holy Spirit lead you into all truth. Man, wise words, brother John Anon. Wise words, man. I totally agree with that. Totally agree with that, man. And God bless you and your family. So glad what you're doing. Oh, we gotta do super chat. I'm butchering it. I don't know if it's Stojas or Stojos. Hello from Melbourne, Australia. Well, hello from down under, brother. So, or I don't know. Based on your name, I don't know if you're a sister or a brother. But so glad that you joined us. And hello. Hope all is well and down under. I know you guys, it seemed like you guys have been having some kind of crazy BLM protests and stuff going on there as well. So please stay safe. Thank you very much for the $5. Greatly appreciate that. I'm glad that what I'm trying to do on the channel and the content I make has been helpful, brother. Okay. Well, thank you so much, brother. I truly appreciate that. I really do, and I'm so glad that you joined. And I'm so glad you are fellow Orthodox. What are you? What's your jurisdiction? Are you Rokor? Are you Antiochian? Greek? Are you in the Orthodox Church? So I'm asking Stoges, or fellow Orthodox. Yep, now locked down again. Parts of Melbourne. Oh my gosh. John Anon, BLM, Baal, Lucifer, Moloch. Yeah, basically, that's great. That is basically the case. So, Macedonian. Oh, okay, cool. Very cool. So I'm very thankful for your $5, brother, and thank you for joining us. Hope all is well down under. I hope you guys are staying safe. Again, thank you everybody for joining in. Thank you guys for watching. I'm glad I could express myself and it deemed worthy for you guys to say something. Oh, Pano threw $5 in. We'll get through this, Ortho Bros. Father Sale from Rose said in the early 80s that if America collapses, we have Russia to look up to for inspiration. Good point. Pano, thank you very much, brother, fellow Hoosier. Again, you ever come to Indianapolis area, dude, we'll have to grab lunch sometime. And also I think I mentioned that we're doing a men's club. I think Subdeacon Mark calls it manly men doing manly things. And so I think we're going to start going to ranges and doing tactical shooting and stuff like that. So I'm not sure where you're at in the state, but you can feel free to join us. Josh threw in $2 more. Where is a good place to move away from? Well, it depends on where you're at, Josh. I assume you're in the United States. But you want to find a traditional state. It looks like Idaho, Montana, Wyoming. They're pretty good. I have to say, compared to everybody else's experience, I'm pretty happy with Indiana so far. Our politicians have not been as crazy as some of the other, if you look north to Michigan, crazy stuff going on with that governor and the state. So I look south to Kentucky, crazy stuff going on in Kentucky. I look to my west in Illinois, crazy stuff going on in Illinois. They still have churches closed. I look to the east, to Ohio. They seem to be a bit worse, but Indiana, sort of right in the middle of all these states, we've been pretty good. Again, the gun laws in this state are great. I'm not telling you to move to Indiana, but I would say, first of all, move to a state with the type of demographics you're looking for, and also, you're in Pennsylvania. Well, Pennsylvania is not that bad. There's some beautiful country in Pennsylvania. You know, like um, if you can, you know, you can move out in the country. I don't know how Pennsylvania is on sort of gun laws and stuff like that, but that's what I look for is sort of demographics, gun laws, their general politics. So Indiana's very conservative outside of Indianapolis and Fort Wayne and Bloomington. So it's like those three cities are real liberal hubs, and then the rest of the state is very, very traditional. So, um, but you know, it just depends on where you want. You know, Josh, if you're in Pennsylvania, you can make things work there because it's really, you know, the whole, it's all going to start falling apart, and that's why it's on us to sort of find our land, find our wives, build our homes, grow our food, have our guns, you know, and be self-sufficient. Pray to God. Pray to, I mean, that to me, that's the goal. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm not there yet. None of us, well, some of us, John Anon's there, so think, you know, lucky for him. But that would be my advice to you, Josh. Thank you very much for the $2, though. I really appreciate that, brother. I'm glad that you are checking out my stream and you found it insightful. So thank you very much. And Pano, brother, if you're in, I'm not sure where you're at in the state, but if you ever come to Indy or the Indy area, man, we need to grab lunch and chat. That'd be great. Um, Oh, another super chat. Boris P threw in $2. He said, "Thoughts on arranged marriage? More below. Thoughts on arranged marriage." I've actually been thinking about this. Oh, okay, and he said, "Thoughts on arranged marriage? Wife and I have kids on the way, and we both wish we had a pair bonded way earlier. Seems like the only solution is arranged. We're Russian Ortho, by the way." Oh, okay. So Boris, and by the way, thank you very much, brother, for the $2. God bless you and your wife and your kids on the way. You said I have kids on the way. Are you having twins? I take it you're having twins. Um, so um, I've been thinking about that because I would be open. I'm personally very very picky. But if my parents knew what I was looking for and they knew, you know, it's like I think that there's some real potential there in regards to arranged marriages through family. Not that because I do think, you know, romantic love is a sort of, you know, that does kind of grow out of kind of Christian romanticism and stuff like that. Um, I don't know. Is love a false ideal? Maybe to a degree. Maybe love is something we grow into, and we can do that through arranged marriages. I think they can definitely work. I think some, you know, at this point, all options need to be on the table, and arranged marriages, I think, should be one of them. Again, through value systems, through our churches and stuff like that, because that's what's most important. So that was just my general thoughts. I think it's definitely an option. I say God bless you and your wife with children on the way. That is wonderful. Oh, he's just had one kid. Okay. Um, well, that's wonderful, brother. You know, like I'm jealous. That's great, man. That is wonderful that you found your wife and you have a child on the way. Hopefully, God blesses you with more children. Um, so Siniton said, "Have you met E. Michael Jones in South?" No, I haven't met E. Michael Jones. What I want to do is finish reading his book, and I wanted to have him on the stream and talk to him. But yeah, he's like a couple hours away from me, maybe 2.5 hours or so. He's up in South Bend, so he's north in South Bend. But yeah, E. Michael Jones is up there. But yeah, I think arranged marriages certainly should be on the option. You know, it should be on the table at this point. It should be an option on the table, is what I should say. And then John Anon said, "Any Orthodox church is better than no church. Go where you can and pray for God to continue leading you." Amen, John. Great advice, man. You're helping, you know, really helping people, you know, with your putting your words of advice out there. I really like it. Arranged marriages can work, but in the end, no one can force you to marry someone you don't want to. Agreed. So no forced marriages, but arranged marriages I think can be a good thing. Um, Magdalene says, depends if you have good parents. True. That is a great point, Magdalene. It does depend if you have good parents. Um, but when you marry the family, and so that's why I think maybe there is something to the arranged structure, because it's an agreement amongst families and sort of, mutual interests coming together. So I think there's certainly something there. Shanu Rao says a marriage isn't between two individuals; it's a union between two families. Exactly. In Hindu Dharma, uh, it is. It is a between two families. Um, I thought there were some studies that show that people's marriages in countries with arranged marriages are happier. I am not familiar with that, but I probably wouldn't be surprised. Uh, Arranged marriages definitely work with ethnic groups. Congregations and parishes are a good substitute. Agreed. Um, and the marriage system that Trotsky abandoned because it was too radical is now institutional in the U.S. I did not know that, Olaf. That's interesting. I did not know that. And Pano said, "My hope is for Elliot Hulse to forego Catholicism and become Orthodox. He's expressed great interest and respect for the Hezekiah." Yeah, that'd be great, Pano. I totally agree. Elliot Hulse has been on this sort of return to tradition, and he's Catholic. And I doubt probably making the appeal to theology and the energy essence distinction and some of that stuff's going to work on him. I don't know if that's what he would be interested in, but it would be great if he became Orthodox. I agree, because that is where the money is. But at the same time, if he wants to be Catholic and he wants to hold up traditional values, well then he'll be my brother. So as long as we don't end up that Monty Python, huge tracts of land, arranged marriage. Yeah, agreed, Prism. Well, anyways, guys, I'm going to hop off here. It's already been 2 hours. Thank you very much for all the love and support. Thank you, guys, all the super chats. Thank you, Hunter. Thank you, Justin Stan, my brother. Hope all is well with your family. Thank you very much, Joshua Schmidt. I really do appreciate that. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Stoj from Melbourne, Australia, from down under. Please stay safe. Hope all is well. Thank you, Pano, my fellow Hoosier. We got another super chat. Thank you very much, Josh from Pennsylvania. And Boris, God bless you and your wife and your child to come. Hidden Knowledge threw in $10. Thank you very much, brother. I appreciate that. He says, thank you for saying what needed to be said about Trump. No political solution, in my opinion. A return to monarchy would be a good move, though. Yeah, I mean, I how we get to there from here, I think, is going to be difficult. But yeah, Trump will not save you. The political system is not going to save you. It's coming to an end. It's all getting ready to crash. So again, getting right with God, doing what's right. That is where we need to go. And thank you, brother, for the $10. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Really do appreciate it. And I think a true Christian monarchy would be great. I don't know how we get to there from here, but if it's God's will, it will happen. So I think that's to be reassured with, right? That if God wills it, it will happen. And so maybe just to kind of be somewhat content with the present situation, even though obviously we can't be entirely content with what's going on. But yeah, this is something I think about a lot. I think about the collapse and what's going to happen quite a bit. And so I don't know. It's something I think about, I reflect on. But thank you very much, Hidden Knowledge, for the $10. I really do appreciate it. And again, like I said, I appreciate all you brothers and sisters that are here. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you just for the support. Thank you for being here. If anybody would like to get an Orthodox Rebel t-shirt, and it says Church of the Eternal Logos on the back, across the shoulders there. It's very soft, premium fabric, premium cotton. It's good. I like it. I'm gonna be wearing this on the 4th of July, and so I'm curious when I go out in public what people say, if anybody's gonna say anything. But we will find out. So, Shadow. Okay, we got another super chat. Any thoughts on the similarities of Trinity and Trimurti and Roman Greek paganism and Hindu paganism? Yeah, so the Trinity and the Trimurti are not the same thing. So the Trinity is one in essence in three persons. The Trimurti, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, the creator, the preserver, and the destroyer, um, are not understood in the same way. These are sort of avatars. And they're, when you get into the sort of theology, because then you have, Krishna, you have the avatars from the avatars, right? Because then you can get into Vishnu and how Vishnu becomes Krishna and all. So, my personal opinion, that because this is something that perennialists will use, they'll say, "Oh my gosh, don't you realize that all the religions are one? The Trinity is prefigured, or the Trinity is present in pagan religions. It's present in all these different religions." I say no. I say, from a logos spermaticos perspective, from the idea that any truth that can be gleaned from a non-Christian tradition is that it's reflected already in Christianity, that maybe the Trimurti is hinting at a Trinitarian understanding of God, but it's certainly not the same thing because they're not one of the same essence. So when you started to get into something, um, something, the when you start to get into like the hypostatic union and all the personhood of the Trinity, it's going to be very different. Again, because paganism ultimately, because that's what Hinduism is, it's a sort of crystallization of paganism. It's only going to, it's always going to divinize creation one way or another. And so that's where I see that. And again, if you're not familiar, there's a Saint Justin Martyr. He came up with the idea of logos spermaticos, where truth can be present in these pagan traditions, but it's only true if it's the truth within Christ and Christianity. So when you get into Hinduism, like Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, you're not going to have, their metaphysics is all messed up. Their creationism, right? It's on the back of a turtle, and then you have turtles all the way down. That whole saying that the world is on the back of a turtles all the way down, because what is the turtle standing on? And so this inability to really have like a strong metaphysics in a worldview, um, I say it's not the same. But this is a very common perennialistic thing that we brought up. And if you don't, I'm not saying you, I have no idea. And I thank you very much for the $5. But perennialist, I assume that you're coming from a Christian perspective and you're just kind of curious about some insights on this. But the Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, the Trimurti, is very different. And in regards to how they're saying, because they're really just embodiments of sort of like cosmic energies. Yeah. Oh, we got another super chat. Pasios. Any idea for your patron saint? Well, mine's Saint Patrick, just because my name. So usually your patron saint, if you already have a Christian name, this is what an Orthodox priest told me, that very often that will be your patron saint because you're already named, and so there is a sort of sympathetic connection between you and that saint. So for me, Patrick was obviously Saint Patrick, so that is my saint, and that's why actually I wear the Celtic crucifix. So I wear a Celtic crucifix. The reason why I bought the Celtic cross, again, is to represent Ireland, to represent Celtic Christianity, and Saint Patrick was Orthodox, guys. So, and then so that's why I got that, and then I just used a crucifix. But that's what I wear, and I wear it because of Saint Patrick. That's my patron saint. But yeah, thank you, Pasios, for the $2. And Shanu Rao, I hope that I helped answer that. It was a kind of a convoluted response. Oh, you said appreciate you all. Thank you. Is there an official Discord server for Church of the Eternal? I do not have a Discord. I have a Telegram. Let me see. here. See if I can share the link with my Telegram. How do I do it? Ah. Dang it. Dang it, dang it, dang it, dang it. Stupid Telegram. Okay, I'm just going to type it in. No, can't. Okay, here. I'll type it in now. Here is my Telegram. HTTPS. There we go. So if you want, that is my Telegram. That is my exclusive. Uh, uh, that is my direct source. Also, if you guys are interested, on my website, if you just go to my website, davidpatrickcurry.com, churchoftheeternallogos.com, and just wait for like 20 seconds, you can just put in your email, and that is actually probably the best way that I can contact you guys directly, just in case I ever got deplatformed or something were to happen, just as a backup, or the Telegram channel. If you're not comfortable sharing your email address, the Telegram channel is an easy way as well. So yeah. So that is it. Again, thank you guys so much for all the super chats. I truly, truly, truly do appreciate it. Pastios is the same name as, there are multiple of them. So all right. Well, thank you guys so much. Thank you. Again, please like, share, and subscribe. I'm sure most of you guys have already. If you haven't liked the video, please like the video. I greatly appreciate it. And I will see you guys next time. I'm actually, yeah. So I may do a stream Friday if I get a chance. So thank you guys. Thank you. And God bless everyone. Boris, God bless you and your wife and your child on the way. God bless everybody who threw in a super chat. I truly, truly appreciate it. Thank you. So until next time, as always, God bless.